The Northern Gateway pipeline project is a plan by Calgary's Enbridge Corporation to construct a 1,170-kilometer dual pipeline in order to transport tar sands bitumen from Bruderheim, Alberta, to Kitimat, British Columbia. The pipeline would bring oil supertankers to BC's pristine north coast for the first time ever in order to deliver the bitumen to Asian markets. In the summer of 2010, my friend Todd McGowan and I set off from the tar sands on a 2,400-kilometer self-propelled fact-finding mission to Bruderheim and then along the GPS track of the proposed pipeline to Hartley Bay, BC. We cycled, hiked, cycled some more, hiked some more, rafted, and kayaked the route in order to get a ground-level view of the issues associated with the project from people who live on the line. So Todd and I have just arrived here in Fort McMurray, putting the bikes together, and then we're gonna head on out in the road.
I like the way you smile at me. I felt the heat that enveloped me, and what I saw I like to see. Never knew where evil grew. I should have steered away from you. My friend told me to...
I'm a welder for one of the big oil companies here, and work specifically in the tailings maintenance area.
And what does your job entail? So you're welding basically pipes that run the water in the tailings?
Yes, we maintain all the pipelines, and that's what we do.
People, I guess, in BC are worried about maybe a tanker spill in on the coast. Do things like that ever cross your mind, being here, or are you kind of
totally,
too far removed from that?
No, especially watching stuff on the news and with that Gulf oil spill, because it will affect a lot of people's lives, just like in the Gulf of Mexico, and I think that's a perfect example. I think we can learn a lot from that up here.
But something drew me near to you. I never knew where evil grew. Evil grows in the dark, where the sun it never shines. Evil grows in cracks and holes.
What do you think, Todd?
It's a big tire. I'm amazed, man. This is absolutely enormous.
So what's your name, sir?
James Garriott.
And what do you do here in Fort McMurray?
I run big equipment. It takes a certain kind of person to do mine work and operating. A lot of people only last year doing mine work for 3, 4, 5 years, and then you move on. I've been doing it now for 14 years.
Yeah. So you enjoy the work?
Oh yeah. I like it. It's my kind of work.
Yeah.
It's rusty, dirty. It's my kind of thing.
Yeah, awesome.
I think a pipeline's going to be good. I think it's very good. I'd rather not sit at home and do nothing. And if you can make good money at it, why not?
Evil grew, it's part of you, and now it seems to be that every time I look at you.
And it is, I'll be honest with you, it does look like kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. No, what happened in BP, that's just, it's a bad, serious accident. I don't think it'll happen here. Then again, I'm not an engineer, so, I don't think that'll happen. It's just the hype. The hype. It's an accident. One was, like we had at XL Valdez.
Yeah.
That was a disaster. Yeah. It's bad. It's bad. It's happened, but I don't think it'll happen.
have biked just north of Fort McMurray here to the oil sands, and this is the industrial ground zero for everything. And right behind me here is a big Enbridge, basically oil reservoir. And from here is where all the oil currently gets piped down to Edmonton and all the way south towards Vancouver. And this oil eventually, if the Northern Gateway project would go through, would be pumped from just north of Edmonton. So go from here, just north of Edmonton, Fort Saskatchewan, and then we'd head over the coast towards Kitimat. As you can see by these two memorial markers here by Highway 63. It's quite a dangerous highway that we're on. Todd and I have we're doing about 450K down this thing to get to Fort Saskatchewan where the pipeline begins. Lots of trucks bombing up and down the highway and lots of accidents. So we definitely have to keep the eyes in the back of our heads going.
45 minutes.
All right, so our first big day of riding in, we're at the Mariana Lakes Country Store. We did about 110, maybe 5 or 10, we don't know. Okay, today. Gunning for this place, thinking it was something. It's marked on the map, but it's actually just abandoned. Hello. Paradise. Door is open, and this is where we're camping tonight. Ah!
Rebecca Reeves, and we're on my farm where I grew up, just east of Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. We had a farm here. We had about 200 head of cattle at the best of times, and my grandparents started the farm in the 60s. The industrial heartland will be, if it goes all ahead, the largest industrial complex in the world. It is completely zoned for refineries and different industrial facilities.
What do you think of a pipeline being shipped out to the coast to bring up tanker traffic?
I mean, there's so many emotions I have with it. I mean, so many emotions around the oil sands in Alberta. So it triggers some of that, and then it triggers. Then it's the trickle effect in the industrial heartland, and you know, my folks are deciding what they want to do with this farm, and I love this property. This is where I grew up, but I wouldn't stay on the farm because of the industrial heartland being so close.
Right.
It's just completely going to change the area. It already has changed the area. It's even just the little things. Like I can't even see the stars on that side of the sky at night anymore. And the northern lights, and I mean the pollution and the air quality around Fort Saskatchewan.
From here, could you point in the direction of the industrial heartland?
Yeah, actually you can't see it right now because it's kind of beyond that, but at night you can see it.
This is the beginning of the Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline. The big area behind me here, this field, will become a large industrialized area to deliver the oil out to the coast. The line would start here and run straight to the west.
There's a lot of mud there for sure.
Got a little gummation.
Yeah, check out the brake pads.
The oil sands is just this huge machine that is moving so fast, and Premier Stelmach has already said, like, we're not touching the brakes, which to me is completely insane. And Pembina Institute did a survey, like 78% of Albertans are like, slow it down. Like, it doesn't make any sense to drill it as fast as possible. And the pipeline out to BC of bitumen is just going to, I think, expedite that really, really fast pace of growth.
Right beside a train track, which being in the heart of Industryville probably means that we're gonna be woken up a few times tonight.
Going for a tractor ride here.
See you, buddy.
We are at Prairie Gardens Adventure Farm in Bonaccord, Alberta, and my name is Tam Anderson, the Director of Fun. You know, on a busy day, on a festival weekend, we might have 3,000 or 5,000 people on site here shooting pumpkins and making scarecrows and getting lost out there in the corn maze, so huge fun.
Is this an Enbridge pipeline? Have you heard of the Northern Gateway pipeline?
Yes, it's coming right past our maze here. In Alberta, I must say, there are lots of pipelines all through our lands.
Okay.
And being farmers, we're always aware that as stewards of the land, it's important to take care.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of a thing, you know, the world demands oil, and we're certainly not prepared to give up driving.
For sure,
we're not prepared to live without heat in our homes.
Yeah.
And I think just to take the right care and the right time and not rush through these projects and make sure that the answers are there before the problems arise. The corn maze has 5 kilometers of trails through it, and it is Alice in Cornland this year.
And where would the Enbridge line run here in terms of the location?
If it comes in, it'll be just halfway through the canola field.
I saw you walking by today. I found it hard to find the words to say. Though I practiced them so.
This is called Rich Valley, and we're here for some festivities. It's a wedding. Well, pipeline is not a it's not a shocking word. It's everywhere. I mean, it's common in my line of work of industrial real estate.
Sure.
That's first thing we do is look what are the restrictions around the pipelines on the land. So they're everywhere and they're just a fact of life. So it's to hear a new one going in isn't big news.
So that the Gulf spill definitely kind of puts it on your radar a bit more.
Yeah, there's a red flag there for sure. So yeah, super tankers, coast, those are kind of key words that maybe don't mix too well.
We've detoured up here to Grand Prairie. It's about 40K north of the line to get our packs and transition from bike to hike. So we're going to give away the bikes here and then start walking.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Put them to good use.
There they go.
Yeah, they're pretty slick. Actually, this one, you're a pretty big guy. This one's probably...
You gonna cry, Todd?
Yeah, I missed the old Norco already. See you, buddy.
That's a good time for those days.
Yeah.
And have you heard of the Northern Gateway pipeline that's being proposed? The one that's running from, I guess, just north of Edmonton to Kitimat, BC?
I heard about it, just a small bit about it, not talking to you two here, so. I do environmental work, mostly remediation for upstream oil and gas industry.
Okay, what does that involve? How does that?
Cleaning up a bunch of the shit that they've spilt all over the place, actually. In Alberta, it's all oil and gas run here, so I mean it is all over the place. I travel all over, so.
And have you ever had to clean up like leaks from pipelines that may occasionally happen?
Pipeline breaks, lots of different breaks. If it gets in the soil beside the river, we try to take out that wherever the contamination is. But once it's in the river, it's almost lost.
Say it's leaking around a river, you call to clean it up, what can you do? I guess you can't do much.
Set out different kinds of booms and try to capture it that way, but you got to be as fast as you can if that happens. So
right.
We try to protect our environment. That's what I want to do. But
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty hard thing to do when it's in that water.
Now, Calhoun County is now in a state of disaster as a layer of oil coats the Kalamazoo River and continues to move downstream.
Now this morning we're tracking that oil. That spill started in Marshall, likely sometime on Sunday, dumping 840,000 gallons of crude into the river.
Feels like a lot of weight. I'm ready to fall over. Sometimes the wind makes me kind of have to do side. Glad I have the poles or I'd be going down. Good for you, it's good for you. That's what Frank says.
Well, a lot of people here working in the gas and oil field are from out of town, and they come here, they work, and they sleep here, and they end up going back, and all the money goes back to the East Coast.
Right.
Same as a pipeline going in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the pipeline, while the guys are here, they might eat or but they're not really living here or shopping here.
Right.
And it's kind of, it's not going to help the economy much.
Yeah.
Because it's not anything permanent. It's just put the pipeline in and they're gone.
A 100 years ago, there were no planes, there were no cars, there were barely any bicycles. People would move things and get around by walking or by maybe horse-drawn carriage. And there certainly weren't any pipelines. So I think we've definitely lost a little with all we've gained as far as speeding up this world we live in. What do you got there, Todd?
Some red currants to add to the breakfast. Delicious. Very good. Perfectly cooked oatmeal, Frank.
Here comes some dust.
Awesome.
Ah, the wilderness. BC border dance.
I don't know who you think you are.
So Todd, was that just today it happened?
Pretty much. It started yesterday, but I'm going to have to get some heel cups or something for my boots, because
Just a lot of rubbing, I guess.
a lot of rubbing.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's good to walk 25K with something like that, eh?
Yeah, it'll be good. 12 days through the Rockies coming up. Fix it right up.
So Todd and I are here at the Grace Fest, and look who one of the major sponsors are. Enbridge. So Todd and I are here, are waiting behind stage at the Grace Fest. We are media, and we're trying to get an interview with Bill Henderson, the lead singer of Chilliwack.
I really believe, along with millions of other people, that we have to move away from oil, and we got to move to other things. I think part of it too is we have to learn to find the joy in life that is not necessarily created by having things or traveling or those kinds of things. Like, the thing about music is that I've spent my life making music, and the reason I did it was because it made me feel so great. Music was a way of kind of easing the pain at first of youth, of growing up and not knowing what the hell's going on, and nobody seems to understand you, and you feel like an outsider, and music was great for that. Like, I started playing my guitar, and it just made me feel better, right? And I learned something from that you can have a good life with very little. Really, you can have a good life with your own, what you and the people around your family, whatever, can create for fun. Hell, that's not new. That's been going on for a long time. We don't need all the stuff that we got. Life is not about all that stuff. And really, that pipeline is about all that stuff. We don't need it. And it's really dangerous. So why don't we do something else?
We use mostly organic beef, mostly organic free-range pigs. We use only lean cuts of beef and pork in our processed meats. It was quoted from another company before, you can taste the difference of quality mix. If they're going to put another line in here, it's only going to help. So yeah, people are excited about it. Maybe they're not looking at the big picture where maybe, you know, it could be detrimental to the fishery, you know, down the road.
So 101 Meats, powering Todd and I across the Rockies. Delicious. So we're here at the Murray River in Monkman Provincial Park, and we have to make a crossing over here to keep on following the line. And just downstream from here on this very river is where the pipeline would cross.
We're in bear country.
So we have reached the end of our track here. It's just gonna be bush for about 25K or so. We might try to get up to get out of the bush if it's really slow going, but it's pretty much time to traverse the heart of the Rockies here and really get into it. So this stuff here is, this is Devil's Club, and it definitely covers all the little open patches in the forest here. Totally full of spines all the way along its stem and under the leaves, so it eventually works its way into all parts of your clothing and skin.
Only 7 hours left, according to Frank.
So this river we just crossed, we had to cross over because we're going to get cliffed out on the other side. And we're actually following right along where the Enbridge proposed line would go. The line was going along the side we were just walking. And now because it's cliffing out, the line also on the map we have from Enbridge is crossing right in this area here. So it's also taking the path of least resistance, as are we. about 8:20, and this is where we're camping. Didn't quite make the pass, but about 1.2K as the crow flies, which is quite a bit, as we found out. But yeah, we put in about an 11-hour day, so time to shut her down. Oh, and there's your ass. So this pristine area we're traveling through, following these moose trails, supports a lot of other large mammals. And right here is a big, very fresh wolf track following along in this moose trail. So the moose are kind of the base food for large carnivores like wolves and grizzly bears.
Thinking everything's okay.
So this is the last little zone here before we go up over this little saddle and then start descending down a potentially harrowing creek to get out to the beginning of a logging road. But this area has been spectacular, and I'm sure it will continue to be for the rest of the day. And yeah, these zones are very rare. It's a completely intact, roadless, ancient ecosystem, and for that reason alone, there should never be a pipeline punched through here.
Place your king on the black square now. Hope the queen will see you bow down.
So as we descend from the Lost World here, you can see this whole valley we're coming out of still has these giant old growth trees. I mean, the elevation here is about 4,000 feet, and you got these big old spruce trees here that are just lining up and down the valley, and just, you know, gorgeous, lush undergrowth. Yeah, just fantastic.
We'll get out while we're still friends. If you break another heart, yours will never mend. Face the rain and tell me how a fighter's hope is falling down.
Alright, as we make our way down the valley, once again we have the moose to thank for making our way a bit better. We were bushwhacking for a while there. And these trails, I mean, they're as good as any kind of a park trail. The moose have been using them for eons. And obviously use the same route all the time to get up and down this valley. And yeah, it just shows you how rich with life it is and how long they've been here for.
Let's get out while we're still friends. If you break another heart, yours will never mend.
So we have reached this first clear cut. 3 days through one of those gorgeous places I've ever been. And now it's back on the road.
I think people who are paying attention to this proposed Enbridge pipeline, and I know there's a lot of people who I've talked to who say, I'm sitting on the fence on this one. I'm not coming out in support of this. I'm not backing it either. And I think people like that who are actually aware of what's being proposed here, they would have some very major concerns after this recent Enbridge oil pipeline spill in Michigan.
So we are ready to depart Bear Lake. We hitched down to Prince George just to do some media and talk about the pipeline with folks down there. It's the biggest community in the north here, and a pretty key one as far as what happens with the pipeline. And now we've switched over back to bikes. Bike shop in town, Coop's Bike Shop in Prince George, generously loaned us a couple of really nice mountain bikes for the kind of rough next section, about 400 K or so, through logging roads and through some of the towns in central BC as we work our way towards the coast along the proposed route. That's what we're talking about, BC fishing. As long as there's no oil spill, we'll get these babies.
I'm a private contractor. I work building roads and bridges and culverts, major things that we bid on, and that's how we make our living. I mean, everything has a risk. We know that. When I'm using my equipment, we have inherent risks with it. We can blow an oil line or whatever. So there is some things that we do that cause environmental damage, hopefully to a minimum, and we minimize this stuff. And so those are the things that I would like to address with Enbridge if I had a chance, to ask what they are going to do. I mean, not the rhetoric.
Yeah.
Like, let's get past the rhetoric. You know, they have to be real with the people and not this, you know, we're going to build this thing and it's going to be good for everybody and all this kind of stuff.
Well, the big concern is the crossing on the Stewart River on Nakal Cove for us. It's because the salmon are so important to us, and there's so many uncertainties. It's not if there will be an oil spill, it's when there will be an oil spill and where. And if it's at the time of the year here when the salmon are coming to their spawning grounds, it's going to be devastating to our people and to all the people along the Fraser River that count on the salmon.
The economic gain in this area here will be minimal. We've looked at it from a business perspective, and the people they hire at the beginning of the line are going to be working at the end of the line. We might get the odd person to lean on a shovel for a couple of weeks, but overall, the impact on the economic benefit to us is minimal, and to even our surrounding communities. This river here is the economic, cultural driver of our people. This is our only chance at A, surviving, and B, rebuilding our culture, and rebuilding the whole economic engine of this area is based on this water. And Enbridge just doesn't recognize that. They just look at it as another crossing that it's going to cost them X amount of dollars extra to cross it because, oh, it's some kind of special river to Indians. Look at the Gulf. You know, and they say, oh, this was an anomaly, and you know, and the Kalamazoo River was an unfortunate incident. Well, have they talked to the people that depend on the Kalamazoo? It wasn't an unfortunate incident, it's a catastrophe. And you know, but you know, and all they're looking at is, oh, geez, it's going to cost us, you know, 300 mil, whatever, to clean up this bill, and they just look at it as at the end result of the yearly figures, and that's not what we think of this. We're not opposed to development. We're not opposed to economic growth. What we are opposed to, like I said, blindly going into a project like Enbridge and gambling with something as beautiful as this.
Come on, Visitor Center. Yeah, I just had a question. Do you know what the status is on the access to the Morris River right now with the fire? So this is the Maurice River, and this is the fire that's currently, one of two fires actually, that's burning along the river. So the road up that river is closed, and this river is where the Enbridge pipeline is proposed to go along. So that is where we are supposed to go. But unfortunately, it is closed, so we're going to route around it and hook into the line from the north, just to get around this big fire zone.
This Saturday night I sit with ease. No night on the town so fine with me. Just moments past you called my line.
Awesome thing is on the other side of the woods, guys. Hey, Raymond.
Well, the thing is, the Bulkley River is the most important fish-bearing stream going through here, and if anything were to happen to that river, it would decimate that recreational fishery, and it would also severely hamper the food fishery for the Wet'suwet'en people, and those are the kinds of risks that it just doesn't make any sense that we should bear those risks for somebody else's profit.
There's a huge number of jobs related to the fisheries, related to the environment, related to wilderness, in tourism, all kinds of jobs that will be lost when there is a spill.
Well, I'm Tony Harris. I've lived in Smithers for 32 years, and I've made my living for 25 of those years as a steelhead fishing guide. And we make a good part of our yearly income as a community from steelhead fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been going on here as an industry for 30 years, and it could continue for hundreds of years if the world was to continue. And an oil spill would just totally destroy that way of life.
Mm-hmm.
So you're replacing people who have work in the outdoors, good, healthy work, good skills, good life skills, with out-of-town contractors who drive backhoes. Alberta is oil and gas country, and BC's kind of wild water, wild fish country, and we'd like to keep it that way.
I understand that no technology exists to address spills in mountain rivers. There's simply nothing you can do. You can shut it off, but what's in the river is in the river, and these are very significant salmon rivers.
So we are just heading up along the Clore River. At the top of this river, the pipeline is proposed to go across it. And the Clore is a major tributary that feeds into the Skeena watershed.
Well, the Skeena is a pretty magnificent river. It supports all 5 salmon species, and probably actually a very unique run of steelhead. There's not many rivers left in the world that carry a steelhead run like we have, and fishermen come from all over the world for the steelhead fishing. Really, like it's quite a unique resource.
So we have come as far as we're going to go up the Clore River Valley here. The next part of our mission here is to basically stash our bikes and our panniers, and then we're going to hike over the coast mountains. Just behind us here is Nimbus Mountain. We're going to wrap around north of it. Enbridge has proposed to drill a tunnel right through Nimbus Mountain in order to push the pipeline through the coast mountains.
Which way you going, Billy? Can I go too? Which way you going, Billy? Can I go with you? I really love you, Billy, and all this time I thought you loved me, Billy, and you were mine. I'm gonna miss you, Billy, and no, I'm trying.
So we are up in the Alpine now, getting up to the bench here. That'll get us over into the Kitimat drainage. And if you look right there, that is Nimbus Mountain, and that is what they want to drill a tunnel through to allow the pipeline to go into the Kitimat River and down to Kitimat. So day 3 now, 3 straight days of rain. We're up here on the shoulder of Mount Nimbus where the pipeline is proposed to go through, and it is socked in. There is like zero visibility. How's that weather window, Todd?
I think it's sunny out. Oh, hey, good morning. I think that it sounds sunny.
The sound of liquid coastal sunshine.
That's right. Oh, another day sitting in a tent.
In the area we're talking about, the character of the mountains really changes. You have Nimbus Mountain, for example, and the Kitimat Ranges are coastal. Steep, lots of vertical, lots of granite, dramatic landforms, jagged ridges and all that, heavy glaciation.
Well, it looks like we made it up to the saddle that we wanted to get up to, the bench, but the weather's terrible.
So it's totally socked in right now, no visibility, extremely steep. If it was sunny and dry, we might be able to pick our way down this really steep stuff, but it's all rock and it's steep, and yeah, you just don't mess with the mountain in these conditions. So we're probably gonna have to go back down now to where the bikes are and bike it back around. You can't control nature, and Enbridge can't control nature either. If something were to happen in these valleys in these kind of conditions, good luck fixing the leak. We are here at the Kitimat River now, and this is a major salmon-bearing river. It its source is in the Coast Mountains, basically at Mount Nimbus, where we got jammed up by the weather. And so now we've come around, we've reconnected with the river in the middle of it, and we're going to paddle it down to the ocean. And the Enbridge pipeline is proposed to run along this river from its very source, where we're in the Coast Mountains, all the way to the ocean.
It's a unique value we have here, and you know, oil is not life-sustaining. It's but water certainly is, and protein certainly is coming up here all the time.
Kitimat River.
That's right.
My name's Donnie Weber, and I'm a local fishing guide. Chinook salmon, coho, steelhead, trout, chum, pinks, everything that you want to catch is here in the valleys.
How important is the fishing industry, like guiding and stuff like that in this area? Like how big is it?
It puts my food, feeds my family, and there's a lot of other guides out here that do it for a living. So.
And so do you see any advantage to a pipeline being here?
I get into some arguments with other people all the time about that, and they say how the pipeline's a good thing, it's going to bring work, and then I look at them and say, well, I'm a guide, and if it leaks, what am I going to do for work? That's going to put me and all the other guides out of work as well.
Yeah.
So are you creating work or taking work?
Here are many so ready. Touch ground, oh, oh. The source of big like interest must proceed, overcome. This game, two can play mark and play. Outside my normal.
So this bridge behind me here, this is the bridge into Kitimat, and we are only a couple of kilometers from the ocean now, from Douglas Channel, where the pipeline will go to deliver oil to the tankers that are proposed to go up and down the channel. Also in about a day and a half here, there's going to be a rally against the pipeline, and it's in conjunction with the National Review Board's decision-making process, which is happening in Kitimat at the same time, about whether or not the pipeline will go through. So we're going to head into Kitimat and see what that's all about.
In the event of an oil disaster, all our efforts and stewardship of our lands and waters would be lost.
More than 250 super tankers bigger than the Empire State Building are planned to go out of this port here, go down the Douglas Channel, and then make 3 90-degree hairpin turns before going out into the ocean. What kind of insanity is that?
Well, it serves some pretty narrow interests, right? If you're into removing raw bitumen out of Canada, then this is the project for you. If you're anybody else, it doesn't serve you at all. Yeah. I mean, we got a $140 million wild salmon economy up here that would be totally threatened, if not ruined, by this thing. When they do the math on this thing, it just makes no sense. And for 37 jobs, you're going to risk hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs, plus your entire culture and environment.
And what has Enbridge told you to convince you otherwise? Like, you've spoken with representatives, obviously.
Oh, they flash a lot of numbers, right? They'll say it's a so many billion-dollar project, and they'll say it's, you know, it's safe. They'll try to get at our basic interests around the environment and the economy. The fact is, their credibility is virtually zero because they just dump 3 million liters into the Michigan rivers. And so Enbridge can, at this point, almost say anything they want. Their track record, what happens in reality, is not credible.
Pipeline
to accommodate additional lines.
500 grams or just over 1 pound of carbon.
To say that it's reasonable to approve this project is madness. The NEB, though, is set up to approve this project, flat out. They're nice folks that are going to try to say yes in any way they can, and that's the reality. So why would we pretend otherwise? It's a farce. It's a farce to suggest that this is somehow a legitimate process. It's not. Some folks are going to want to say that, you know, people in northern Alberta might benefit, but even at that level it doesn't, because the expansion of the tar sands, we've heard from the local officials in northern Alberta saying slow the expansion down, no new projects, so they're not asking for this. The workers who work in any of the refining plants will be out of a job because this stuff leaves the country. So even the ones with the most direct to gain don't. So then you're left with some investors, right? Some international Wall Street, Bay Street type investors who want to see a share price go up by a couple of points. That's it. China might benefit, but you know, at some point we got to make a choice. 2010 is the hottest year on record so far, right? Climate change is on. These projects are dinosaurs, and they should do what dinosaurs do, which is die.
So this is Douglas Channel, and this is where the port for the super tankers is proposed to be put in. Over in the far point there, you can see that's where they're planning to run the pipeline. It'll run along this north shore of the channel, and the port would be out there by the point, and that's where the super tankers would be coming in and out of.
Joking, maybe those guys in the sailboat have some beer.
As far as the route, Douglas Channel, everyone says it's going to be safe, no problem with modern steering systems and all that sort of thing. What is your opinion? What's the evidence of that for you?
Well, it's if it wasn't so serious, it would be laughable. You know, to imagine the weather that we've had just in the last 3 days, you know, from just absolute zero visibility with torrential downpours of rain to storm force gust winds to bright sunshine to calm seas, you know, and everything in between. And this is just the end of August. You know, imagine you know, in November, in December, in January, when we've got hurricane force winds and you're trying to navigate the world's largest oil tankers through these narrow passageways that are reef strewn with up to 100-foot high waves. It's almost unconscionable that the Canadian government and the oil industry pushing Enbridge to put oil tankers in a place like this. You know, in Prince William Sound, where the Exxon Valdez smashed into Bly Reef just over 20 years ago, you know, that's wide open. That's a huge thoroughfare. You know, I've flown over it, I've been there. You know, it's just really hard to figure out how the Exxon smashed into the one reef in the middle of that sound, but it did. Here, there are countless reefs that these oil tankers will have to navigate around. So, you know, when they say that there will be a spill, statistically speaking, everywhere that oil is transported on this coast, or on this planet in the ocean, a spill does happen. So it will happen here, but I think it will happen much quicker than what the statistics are saying. We'll probably be seeing a major oil spill within 10 years if Enbridge got its way and built this pipeline.
So we were just waking up this morning in Douglas Channel, just camped here in the forest, and looking out on the water, it is socked in. It's just a big white bubble out there. So yeah, you can see how 250 tankers a year running up and down this channel, that navigation is going to be an issue. And all through the channel, it's very narrow, very rocky, lots of shoals, so it would just be a matter of time before something happened. And you see people of the north relenting, giving in?
No, this is who we are. It's our way of life, right? These rivers, these lands, this ocean makes us. People don't make the land makes the people. So why would we give up who we are?
We discovered that the second highest wave ever recorded in human history was just out at Hecate Strait and right on the proposed tanker route. And in a storm there, and I think it was 1977, they recorded a wave that was over 100 feet high, and they had sustained wave heights of 70 feet for over 6 hours. Waves that high sink tankers, super tankers. They break them up. Well, there's so many things at risk. Like one of the things is what we learned from the Exxon Valdez disaster is this type of coastline, because of its geographic complexity and just the structure of the shoreline and the length of the shoreline and the high tides, the 20-foot tide variations, that it's ideally suited to capture spilled oil and maximize the bad effects of an oil spill. And that's why the Exxon Valdez is not even in the top 10 as far as oil spills in the world, but it was by far the most destructive oil spill in human history. They've made some outrageous and ludicrous and I think childish statements about the safety of the project. They've said that the chances of a spill out here are nil, and I looked up the definition of nil, and nil means nothing. That means so that they basically said there is no chance of an oil spill on the coast from this project, which of course anybody with a teaspoonful of common sense knows is bullshit.
So our trip has come to an end. Right off there in the distance is the exit to Douglas Channel. That's where the tankers will be coming in. And just around the corner to the right is Hartley Bay, where we will complete our journey. Let's do it. Oh yeah.
The Sierra Club has worked for over 10 years with other organizations and with First Nations to protect the Great Bear Rainforest, which is, as you know, the world's largest remaining coastal temperate rainforest. And people think of the ocean and the forest as separate, but actually they're incredibly interconnected. Many of the wildlife that live in the rainforest actually depend on the coast as well. The bears, obviously, the spirit bears that live here and nowhere else, the grizzly bears eat the salmon in the rivers, the coastal wolves eat the salmon, but they also come down to the shoreline. The bears will eat barnacles off the beach, they'll eat clams off the beach, the wolves eat those as well. The wolves will some wolves have been seen to swim up to 10 kilometers of open ocean to go out to haul out rocks and to eat the seals that are on the rocks. The forest depends on a healthy marine ecosystem. And also, you talk to the people that live here, and their cultures and their food and their livelihood depend on the marine ecosystems. And somebody just said to me yesterday, the rainforest needs the ocean, and we get food from the rainforest as well, and that depends on the ocean. So there's not just the wildlife, but also the people that live here.
I'm pulling my halibut gear, ground line, and we're looking for halibut. If anything should happen, like one of the big ships hit Sora here, it's going to be a big disaster, and I know for a fact that I wouldn't be doing this here should anything happen. I make the best out of this every year to provide for winter use for my family, as well as in-laws, my immediate family, my brothers, my sister. I have about 12 families.
Wow.
And I have friends too that do help me out, and I repay them by giving them halibut. I keep thinking to myself too, if there is a big accident, where are we going to go? Are they going to reallocate us? Put us somewhere where we can have wieners and bologna every day or something? Yeah. This is what I came for.
Yeah.
What do you think, Wally?
I'm happy. I'm happy.
I heard some music being played today. I heard a song, but the words were wrong. It didn't matter to me anyway. Some people really don't care what they say. I started looking to the sky today, 'cause it's so big and it's so far away. I've got too many things inside my head. I wish that I could be up there instead. No one is meant to be living here in a concrete sea. Everyone, including me, wishes he could be set free. And then I looked into the ocean blue, 'cause it's so deep and it's so quiet too. There's just too many people everywhere. I wish that I was down there. No one is meant to be living here in a concrete sea. Everyone